Horrible performance, but the 3 points was needed, and that's what we got. I think that's kind of how I feel about the game. That's my all my thoughts. Damn near. I think you know going into the game, it was a must win. To put the pressure back onto City and to keep our run going, we need to win these last, now four remaining Prem games and just see what happens, right? That's all we can do. If it goes on the goal difference, it goes on the goal difference. And if they drop points, then sure, we'll win the league as long as we win our remaining games. And so today was just the start of that. And, I thought, within the first 2 minutes, it looked like it was going to be another horrible performance, but then we picked it up, and I thought we had a wave of momentum, and we started to build, it felt like. As a beautiful goal, the set piece routine, switching it up, going short now. I think they've been switching it up a little bit. I think against City they switched it up a little bit too. But yeah, so it's good that they're trying something new. And you know, Madueke first plays it short to Odegaard, plays it short to Odegaard again on the second one, and then the third one plays it to Havertz. Havertz has some time and space in the box, which is surprising, but that only happens because of the two short corners at the beginning. Then Havertz turns, gives it to Eze, and Eze, beautiful finish, top left corner. And that's what you expect from your magic man, right? Your decider in big moments. And he turned up. I thought he was really good until he came off. But I think the big thing that changed the game into, what was, or what originated as, maybe an entertaining game, maybe a more fun game to watch, to a dreadful game to watch, to be honest. I think the second half actually must have been zero point 0.5 for both teams' tops. It was a dreadful game on the eye, statistically as well, probably horrible game. But what started that was the Havertz substitution, Havertz injury, leading Gyökeres to come on. And I have to be honest, I think I'm done with this guy. I think I've been done with him for a while, I think, but now I'm completely done with him. I thought, before I thought, maybe we can do with just having him in the squad, right? Sign someone else or keep Havertz fit for a season and he can just be the backup. No. No longer can he be the backup. This is the worst striker I've seen play for us since I don't know when. Literally my whole time watching Arsenal. I've watched Arsenal for a while now, maybe 7-8 years. Probably since 2018, I've been watching Arsenal, and before that, I've been actively following Arsenal because of my brother since maybe 2014, 2013. This guy is worse than every striker I've seen and heard of associated with Arsenal. Giroud, Welbeck, Lacazette, Aubameyang, Nketiah, Havertz now, Jesus. Maybe I'm missing a few, but I think every single one of them brings something to the game and is better than Gyökeres is. Every single one of them has an attribute that makes them stand out and makes them able to compete against Premier League defenders. Gyökeres has zero attributes, and I don't want to make this a slander against one of our players. We might need him come the end of this season, but his goal is to optimize our transition play in terms of, be a runner and be a good runner and be able to create on the counter in the transition moments. That's one of his so-called attributes, and his other is finishing, his ball striking. Well, last week or maybe 2 weeks ago against Bournemouth, he had 2 or 3 good chances, and his ball striking let him down. Throughout this whole season, his ball striking has let him down. Not in the way that he can't finish, it's that he can't get shots off because he takes too many steps before the shot. And then in transition, you see it today. This guy's a bum. He'll have one defender side by side with him, and somehow this transitional, pacey forward always loses out. Whether it's, he tries to knock it past him and go on just a race against the defender and loses out. Whether he tries to body his way out of it and gives away a foul or loses out, or whether he does what he did today, which is tries to pass the ball and hits it into the defender. Like, look, I have a problem with a few of the signings, or there's problems with a few of the signings we made over the years, right? But this one, by far the worst signing we have ever made in my time supporting Arsenal or even knowing about Arsenal. My brother supported Arsenal since 2013. So I've known about Arsenal pretty well and pretty good detail since 2013. This might be the worst signing I've ever heard of when it comes to Arsenal from an attacking perspective. He might be as bad as Mustafi and Kolasinac and these guys. He might be on that level. And then when you think about the money we paid for him, he might just be up there with Mustafi. Mustafi, 35 million back in the day, or 30 to 35 million pounds from Valencia, I believe it was. Back in the day, that's a lot more than what 35 million is now. 60 to 65 million for Gyökeres, even if it's 55 million for Gyökeres. He is a bum. And I'm sorry to have wasted 4 minutes on this guy, but I've given up on him. Madueke, he's had a bad few performances, but today he was better, and you can see it. You can see what makes him a potential good player. 1v1, this guy's a threat. Pace, threat. He just needs to work on his final decision making, and he's needed to do that for some time, but there's still something there. You can see it. You've seen it, work out in a few Champions League games and a few Premier League games. You can see why we would have bought him, even though he might have been overpriced. Zubimendi, you can see why we bought him. The duels, the IQ, the progression ability when he's given license to, which we saw a lot of today in the first 30 minutes when Havertz was starting, by the way. And we saw it earlier in the season as well. I think all of our signings, damn near, I feel like you can look at in at least in the Arteta regime, you can probably look at for most of them and say, okay, you can see why that might have been the case. Whether it's the right decision or not, like Willian one, was it the right decision? It probably wasn't the right decision, but you can see why. We had a shoestring budget and we needed players that we thought could raise our level, and he thought Willian was one of those players. Ended up not being true. But in the same way we got rid of Willian in the summer after, we need to get rid of this guy, because the reason I'm spending so much time on this is because genuinely I'm concerned. I'm concerned that if Havertz is out for the rest of the season, we might end this season in a horrible, horrible way. Because this guy, if Moreno doesn't come back soon, and if Jesus doesn't have something for me in the last 6 games of the season for us, I am genuinely very concerned about what might happen. Because he is so bad. I'm genuinely impressed when he wins a duel. When he wins a header, I'm impressed. When he wins a 1v1 on the ground, I'm impressed. When he's able to take a good touch and retain the ball, I'm impressed. When he's able to lay it off, I'm impressed. These are things that people refuse to give Havertz credit for. Havertz maybe 5 million more and maybe slightly more expensive when it comes to wages. People refuse to give Havertz credit for these because of the big chances he missed. But then let's look at Gyökeres, who's our other starter in that position. This guy does nothing. Genuinely nothing. I don't know what more I can say about him or how to break down his style of football so that it can make him look good. No, this is just a horrible, horrible signing that makes zero sense. And if we have to rely on him as a starter for the rest of the season, it's spooky, especially the way we're playing. The way we're playing is already bad, and I don't want to blame everything on him, but I don't want to make the video too long either. We haven't been that good. But guess what? When you have Havertz as the 9 and Gyökeres on the bench, and you have Odegaard and Eze both actually fit, Odegaard who missed most of our season, we look much better. But then when you have, even with Madueke on the wing, and Madueke has been poor recently, he had an okay game today. But when you have Gyökeres starting, now you have Madueke, who's, he's limited, and he needs time to develop clearly, which is unfortunate because we need players for now. And you have Gyökeres, that bum, and you have Odegaard, who's already pretty limited. You're relying on Eze. You're relying on players like Calafiori, who didn't start today, Rice, Zubamendi, to just do something out of nothing. It kind of, I don't know if you guys noticed, but our central progression went down the drain. It sank like the Titanic after he came on. We literally could not progress through the center. We avoided it at all costs. Line breaking passes in that first 30 minutes, I could give you a 2-minute comp. In the last 60 minutes, I could give you maybe a 10-second comp. And look, the reason why I'm highlighting him so much is because, yes, it's not just him that maybe didn't play well. We didn't play well in general. But the thing is in the first 30 minutes, you saw signs, you saw signals that we're playing well, we can run with momentum, and we're doing things right, we're building out correctly, etc., etc. Obviously, there's nerves, and you can see that. There's some players are making, maybe, misplacing a pass, etc., etc. We're in bad form. We're there's a lot of pressure on us. Maybe the confidence has been hit a bit. That's fine, because you need to play through that, and we were going to play through that today, it looked like. But then Havertz comes off, which looks like it might be a serious injury, and then it completely changes, and it completely goes downhill in terms of central progression. I'm not worried about the Eze injury. It just looked like a precaution. But in terms of the other one, in terms of the Havertz injury, that might be season defining. Genuinely, I genuinely think if he's out, I'm concerned. I don't know. What do you play Martinelli as a 9? Do you play Moreno comes back in time and play him as the 9? Do you put, I don't know, roids or injections into Havertz and pray that he makes it through these past 6 games, even at 60%, and then, figure it out in the summer with him and the 9 position? Like, what do you do? I'm not a big Alvarez guy in terms of how that will work out with our team, but brother, I think anyone would work out better than Gyökeres right now. I think you give us Xerxes and he'd play better than Gyökeres right now. I think you give us Højlund and he might play the same level as Gyökeres right now. But at least you'd have he's young and he has potential for him. This turned into a Gyökeres rant, and I didn't want it to be, but that's kind of where I feel like the make or break is. If we don't have everyone else at top shape and everyone else in prime condition, Gyökeres starting is a hindrance. If we have everyone in prime condition and everyone's fully fit and all guns blazing like the first half of the season, then you can play with Gyökeres, because even if we have 10 men, we're just so good with everyone else and the way we build up and all these different patterns that we can create, and tactically as well, that we can play ignoring him. But with this guy in the form that we're in and the way we're playing, when we need to break out of that, it's looking spooky. But we've won in 6 more games, 7 potentially if we make the UCL final, win all 7, and I guess we'll have 2 trophies. How possible is that with Victor Gyökeres starting for us? I have no idea. Am I distraught? Somewhat, but we'll see the injury news. Hopefully Havertz is out for a week tops, and we go from there.